Hi everyone. Have you ever wondered what really goes on for your child when they are just refusing to say sorry, even when it's very clear that they're the ones that are responsible for what has gone on? So I want to talk today about why that happens, what gets kids stuck, and how do we get them unstuck so that they can apologise for what they've done when they have some real accountability to show up for. So why do they do it? So there's two reasons that kids get stuck with apologies. The first one is that they're actually fully consumed with shame. So they can see that they've hurt the other person, or they can see that, in the moment they really wanted to do the thing, but then afterwards when they saw the consequences of their actions, they really regret it. And they regret it so much that they feel like acknowledging that would push them into a deep shame, a deep feeling of I am a terrible person, and I just can't even go to the level of depth of awfulness I feel about myself if I was to front up and say sorry. This happens quite a lot when children don't actually predict the consequences of their actions. So they do something and then often they'll really not believe, not even see coming just how much of an effect they've had, potentially when they've hurt somebody, or sometimes something like if they've pushed something and then it's fallen over and smashed, they weren't expecting that. They were just expecting to cause a scene, not to actually cause actual damage. That's the first reason that they'll refuse to apologise. The second reason that kids will really get into that, I'm just not going to apologise for that, is when they are focused on what's going on for them. It's yes, I pushed him, but he took my toy. And so there's that piece of, well, but what about me? No one is giving a crap that he started it, or no one is caring about what's going on for me. And so that becomes one of these things where parents are well, but I just need them to know no matter what happens, you can't retaliate, or you can't, blah, 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 blah. All the stories that we have. But here's the thing, we have to be able to hold the two things that happened at the same time. So we have to be able to say that, acknowledge their part in the process, but also acknowledge the stimulus that happened. Because what we really want to do is we're doing two things when we look at a situation where our child should be saying sorry. We want to look at first, what is it that we can do to make good? How can we repair the relationship between our child and whoever the person is, which might be ourselves? How can we make good? Because we want to really make the idea known that relationships are just repaired. That's just how they work. We all have, when we have relationships, we do have times where we need to be repairing. And so then the second part we want to really impart to our kids is that the more we unpack when something's gone wrong, the more information we have to be able to avoid something similar happening in the future. So that something similar might be the exact same thing, especially if we're talking about sibling fights over toys, but it also might be a similar circumstance where I feel aggrieved and I know I have options. I don't just have to smack someone around the head. So that it's just that similarity, so that they get a neurological path that says I have choice. No matter what's happened to me, I have choice. So what do we do? When our child has done something that they really need to apologise for, we want to work out, is the person who needs to be on the receiving end of the apology, do they need tending to? Now, sometimes that's ourselves. So if they've, say for example, they've accidentally hurt us or intentionally hurt us, or if, even upset us, sometimes our kids do things that trigger us that have nothing to do with them, but we are really, really, really triggered. Or alternatively, it might be that they've injured another kid, or they've taken a toy, or whatever's happened. We first want to look at the person who's on the receiving end of the behaviour. Do they need tending to? So we can do things like empathise with the hurt child. We can empathise with our triggered selves. Whatever we need to do to tend first to the person who's been on the receiving end of the behaviour, because we want to really promote the idea that it's almost like somebody needs to go first. We need to tend to somebody first, and let's go with the person who's been on the receiving end of the hurt. So then the second thing we want to do is actually get clear on the perspectives of the people involved. So if our child has, say for example, our child has hit their brother because they stole the one brother stole the toy, the other brother hit back in retaliation, we can first tend to the child who's been on the receiving end of the hitting, saying, oh, sweetie, oh, did that hurt you or did it scare you? Oh, it looks like it's really sore. Ouch. Do you need an ice pack? Whatever they need. And then secondly, we turn to the other child and go, it must have really upset you when he took the toy for you to be able to hit him like that. And so anything that's empathizing will actually connect them to why they behaved the way they did. And in this way, we give them a signal that there's always a reason they've behaved the way they did. They don't behave poorly because they're a bad person. They don't behave poorly because there's something inherently bad or wrong about them. They don't behave poorly because, just randomly they wanted to hurt somebody. There's always a reason. Even if we can't see it and even if they don't know what it is, there is a reason. So by acknowledging that, we get them to start looking at themselves with compassion and looking at themselves as what can I learn from this and how can I repair this relationship? So first we look to what happened. So, oh, sweetie, were you really angry because he took the toy? Or whatever you can see that might have been the stimulus. And particularly if they've done something and they didn't expect it to go as badly as it has, you can say things like, you didn't expect to hurt him like that. You just wanted him to know that you didn't want him to take your toy. And you see how we're just really acknowledging his perspective. And then once they have had some empathy, and you know that they've had enough empathy when they physically shift, so their energy will cool it a little bit, it won't be so intense, and usually there'll be some kind of physical shift. So for me personally, if I'm tense, my shoulders are up here. Once I've had empathy, my shoulders relax and come down. For every kid, there'll be a physical signal that you can see when they've had enough empathy. So once that's happened, you go, yeah, so you really don't want him to take your toys. And also, can you see how hurt he is and how scared he was when you hit him? That was really not good. So what could we do? And you can go down a couple of paths. You can go, I wish I'd asked mum for help, or you can go down the path of next time you could blah, blah, or you can say, what would you like to make it up to him? Or, and particularly in a case of a child who was retaliating, is saying, do you want to let him know how much it hurt you? Now, here's the trick when both kids are triggered, right? And if it's you and your child, is if you're both triggered, the question is you can only really tend to the feelings and needs of one person at a time. So the question is, who goes first? It's the person who has the capacity. We go with the person who has the least capacity to wait, right? So we tend to that person, then we tend to the other person. And normally with small children, you'll have to alternate because you won't be able to spend enough time on one child to get all the way to the bottom before we have to go back to the other child. So I hope you can see that the big thing here is about getting kids to express their emotions. So rather than hitting, they can actually find out what it is that they're feeling and needing and then making a different plan. So I hope this has been really helpful, and I'd really like to hear what has been a light bulb moment for you? What has been an aha that you're taking away from this? I'd love to hear that in the comments, and especially, if you wanted to come back and let us know what changes, what shifts after you start to use these strategies. I'll also put in the description of the video the link to sign up for my weekly emails. I send out these videos as they're ready, and also some other free and paid ways to work with me. So thank you so much for watching.